had arrived in Alaska. There was snow very much still on the ground, the trees were bare, and it was freezing. By the way, have you ever seen a snowblower? Anyway, I was going to be staying with my best friend Dawson's parents and working for his mom, Beth, at her bead shop in Talkeetna, Alaska. But it was still mid-spring, and the tourists hadn't yet begun pouring in for the summer, so we had a little time left to do other projects. Dawson and his fiancée Suyun were coming up in June to have their wedding here, and we had a lot to get done before then. The first project on the docket, though, was a greenhouse for Beth, and we wasted no time getting started. I'd done some wood crafts with my grandpa and probably hung around in the garage while my dad made or fixed something when I was younger, but this was the first thing I ever built. Not that I was alone, there were a few of us working, but my input mattered. I got up on a ladder and screwed in screws at 15 feet, and I got to look at that greenhouse for the rest of the summer and know that I helped give it life.
We have plenty. Yeah, so I'm not...
Most people come to Talkeetna for this shot right here, Denali, Hunter, and Foraker. Denali is the highest peak in North America, and it pulls in all kinds of tourists, including over 1,000 climbers who attempt to summit each year, which keeps the summer culture very interesting. But the snow and ice hadn't yet cleared, which means we wouldn't have tourists for a couple weeks yet. I myself was already over the sludgy snow and chilly air. I always dread the in-between. I was ready for green trees, flowing water, and warm days. But for now, at least it was beautiful. I was having a lot of alone time, which I actually enjoyed. I didn't get a lot of alone time at home. I felt like I had space in my brain for the first time in a long time. I got really into making cookies, which were very popular in Beth's Bible study group.
Sometimes play chess, and when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that
But as much fun as I was having being alone, it would have started to wear on me soon. But it never got the chance. I was rescued by one of Dawson's best friends named Caleb. He took me to a little gathering his buddies were having at their friend Logan's house, who just so happens to be Dawson's cousin. Small town enough? I'd never seen burls before, and I was fascinated with Logan's log house. I ran all around filming it before I went inside. Okay, maybe I was stalling. But with arms wide open, they welcomed me in, and I met everyone. We had an awesome night doing a full house tour, dubbed the One Beer Tour because that's how long it takes to see the whole property. We moved Logan's sister Noelle's mattress into the house and played darts in the basement long into the night. And one day in early May, I rode my bike 2 miles down the road to Beth's mom's house to explore her still frozen lake. And one slow day at the bead shop, I got a special visitor. One of the little mares of Talkeetna came by to say hello. Talkeetna has had a cat mare since 1997, but when the original mare passed away a few years ago, I learned that this kitty, Aurora, and her brother Denali have taken up the mantle. Needless to say, we were fast friends. She sat at the counter with me for the rest of the day, keeping my lap warm. As spring continued, so did our progress with the greenhouse. This included many trips to Home Depot. I never ceased to be blown away by the beauty in this state. Even in the parking lot of a hardware store on a gloomy day, we are surrounded by gorgeous mountains with fresh snow. And then Paxton had arrived home for the summer and jumped in to help us continue the frame of the greenhouse. And we were whisked away one night with promises of dancing and beer. We took a back road from Abby's house to downtown that took us through a forest full of birch trees. Caleb and I had been tasked with designing the arch for Dawson and Sion's wedding, so we were always keeping our eyes peeled for 2 birches that would do the trick.
That's too big.
The trail spit us out in the heart of downtown, right in front of the local bar called the Fairview. When Logan had invited me out on this night, he had used its nickname, The View, and I thought he was going to take us to some cool lookout spot. Needless to say, I was a little shocked when we ended up in front of an old bar, but I was quickly converted. Here, the lines between the generations are blurred. The folks in the Fairview range from 21 to 81, and everyone is just there for a good time. I'd been apprehensive at first, coming to such a small town. I'd been a bit worried about how I'd be received, but this was the night that I began to fall in love with Talkeetna.
Don't you go telling no lie. Guess you in deep trouble. Just to follow you like flies.
Okay, go again. I want to show you how bendy you are.
That's your left. Try your other leg.
You're so close.
We're basically related.
They are all basically related.
It wasn't long before we were headed back to the Fairview, this time dropping off Logan's camper van, Trudy, at Abby's place before we set off to meet some friends who were camping nearby. The days were getting longer and longer. It was about 9 p.m. by the time we got downtown, and the trees were still glowing in the setting sunlight. And work continued, at the gallery some days and the bead shop on others. And Kona greeted me every day after work with a toy and a tail wag.
What do you have, Kona? What do you have? Oh, thank you. Wow.
And wedding prep was in full swing. One of Dawson's other groomsmen, Dustin, had been growing some gorgeous roses that Beth was going to take over caring for. And Caleb and I set to work making some wood rounds for decoration. Then Abby took me out foraging for fiddlehead ferns. We crossed the river and went to a patch she'd found. There was rain pattering on the dead leaves, the snapping of fiddleheads and birds chirping, but other than that, it was silent. I haven't experienced many silences like this in my life, and I was absolutely loving it. This was one of my favorite days ever. I learned that fiddleheads are toxic to humans if you pick them after they're taller than about 2 inches, so there's a very tight window in which they can be foraged. We also didn't pick too many in the same bunch or too many in the same area. We only picked what we would eat that night and some to freeze for another spring meal later in the summer.
I'm blanching them first and then we'll put them in bar.
We took our spoils back to Logan's to clean them and cook them. I met a new friend named Marty who made us a delicious meal called Halibut Olympia.
I like to buy it. Wait, last letter.
And the garlic's already over there?
Mm-hmm.
With full hearts and full bellies, we let Logan entertain us with stories about the challenges of car upkeep in Alaska.
Balance section of it. You just did the mount. Now you gotta get the balance. So you gotta spin off. You gotta spin off your top piece.
Ironically, not a few days later, the old Suburban I was driving for the summer broke down for the third time. And then we were off on our first out-of-town adventure. A bunch of us were heading up to Kesugi to go camping. What do you...
2/3 times 3.
No. How we do math is based on beer sizes. It's based on how many Coors Lights. I'm gonna film it just for record if you make any of us sick later.
I think that's too much.
There might be. We're gonna die.
But ready to flee from this all, or to be standing on your own, or to be standing on your own. You knocked me down, swept my feet off the ground, left me on the floor. Hard to resist.
I'll tell you the history as Abby is teaching me.
All right.
Okay, Abby, continue. Which are these right here?
You have to say what she's saying because you're on camera.
Oh, so Takoshes means the mountains of falling rock.
Oh.
Which, as you can see here, how they've sheared away.
Yeah, they followed me over here.
They have fallen.
I came over here to call you.
Because they're rocks. Abby, keep going.
Ruth Glacier feeds the Talkeetna River.
So the Ruth Glacier right here, in this valley here.
I was just looking for And at the very end of May, the sun finally came out. I'd planned to meet Ruby down at the lake to celebrate the good weather, but the old Suburban had gone dead on her again, so I had some time to myself to just soak it all in. Summer was just around the corner.